Hey guys, welcome back to Maverick's Arcade. My name is Chuck, and today we're going to be talking about the Arcade1UP machine. Now, when I first got this 1UP machine, I didn't buy it because I like NBA Jam, which is the one I got. I bought it because I wanted to build another arcade machine, and the wood prices were so ridiculously high right after the start of the, you know, that thing. Um, and I also wanted to have that second arcade so I could test Raspberry Pi and Linux because I have some users that have asked questions about those systems. So I didn't want to like mess up my big arcade. I wanted to go ahead and have another arcade to do that with. So that's what started this whole Arcade1UP project, was because it was like $500 normally, and it was on sale for $100, and I got the last one. But it also offers 4 players with 3 buttons each, which is perfect for a lot of early arcade games. So that's what I did. Now, when I started this, I figured I would just build my own active display and I would attempt to make my own frame for it. Now, today I'm going to show you the journey I took. The first part of the video is the absolute wrong way to build your own display. And then I'm going to show you a better way of building your own display, and then potentially the best, easiest, and most cost-effective way of adding an active display. So in the first part of this video, you're going to see me forgetting some very basic woodworking skills that I had previously learned when I built my big machine. It's actually pretty embarrassing but it serves to show you guys that when I tell you I am not an expert by any means, I'm just kind of muddling my way through. After you see this video, you're going to know that's absolutely the truth. So go ahead and check this out. This is the wrong way. Again, don't take notes here. This is not what you want to do. Check it out. So like I said before, I was trying to reuse a piece of wood, and this happened to be a piece of plywood my daughter was using for Play-Doh. And let me just say, don't do that. So I measured out where I needed the cuts to be, and then using a paddle bit, I made sure that I wouldn't go over the line with cutting the circles. Make sure to use safety glasses when cutting, of course. And then I went ahead and cut the 4 holes in the corners that I would then use to cut the shape out of the board. You can see definitely not the shape I was intending to cut. Continuing on this ill-gotten strategy, I cut the hole out for the back piece. Using a Dremel and other tools, I got the cuts a little closer to the line. I then tried to see if the screen fit as planned, and it was still snug in some areas, so I had to trim those down. And while the connections on the back were exposed, it was still really messy. I then measured the distance that I still needed to go for the rest of the frame. I then lined up and measured the back piece against the existing arcade parts. You can see here, it's still looking pretty bad. I figured I'd use these pieces of wood as like spacers to get the extra thickness I needed. This is what all the pieces look like separated, and this is what they would look like glued together. So as you can see, if I would have continued going, that would have looked like a kid's macaroni project. Pretty bad. So I decided, let's get a new piece of wood. Let's not be so cheap. And let's see if we can get any better results. So I was very happy with this results, but make sure to check this out and then stick around and you'll hear about the good news of my third potential option. But check this out. This is the good way to do it if you're going to do it yourself. First, I cut a piece of wood to match the width and height of the original marquee. Next, I verified that the height of the piece of wood and the LED display did in fact match. These are my messy Sharpie lines for cutting a hole in the frame. Now this is one of the mistakes I made during the first attempt. I forgot all about the plunge cut. Plunge cut is where you put the front of the drill of the saw down on the material. You then use your left hand to manually open the safety on the drill. Carefully lower the drill while the blade is spinning onto the line where you want to make your initial cut. Once the blade has been fully penetrated and the saw is flat on the material, finish your cut in the direction you're facing. Then you may turn the material around and use the saw normally to cut in the opposite direction. Believe me, using this method to cut straight lines is way easier than trying to do it with a Dremel. Once you've cut all 4 lines, you're ready to remove the frame. Place the screen inside the frame to make sure you have a good fit. Make sure the frame is centered in the frame, not necessarily the hole that was cut. Heavily using the Sharpie, make sure to color any ends of any pegs. Take the second piece of wood that will be used as a backplate and hold it to the arcade in the position where it will eventually be installed. Press firmly on this piece of wood to ensure that the mark that we left on the pegs from the Sharpie will transfer to the backside of this piece of wood. Flip over the piece of wood and verify that both marks transferred to the board. Compare the markings to the original pin locations on the arcade. Next, we'll be cutting the shallow holes into the backboard piece. To make sure the holes aren't cut too deep, I'll use an appropriate sized drill bit and then use electrical tape to mark the depth. When drilling into the backboard, I will make sure not to pass the tape. Next, put the backboard in its approximate position. Again, use the Sharpie, but this time mark the 2 holes for that white piece that will secure the backboard. Next, repeat this process on both sides of the board for the side pins. Next, put all the pins in their final positions. For this step, I'm taking the LCD screen and laying it on top of the back piece to get a good approximation of where the cables need to come out. I will use that approximation to drill the hole. First, use a normal drill bit to drill a small hole through the back piece. This will be used to stabilize the paddle bit. Start with the paddle bit on the inside part of the board. Drill halfway through. Then finish the hole from the other side that will be exposed. This will ensure that any breaks or tears in the wood during cutting will be on the inside and will still look nice from the outside. We will now take the frame and the back piece and glue them together and weigh them down overnight so they can dry. Sand the edges to make sure everything's flush. You may also need to use a sander if some of the sides aren't exactly flush. Once everything is flush, line up the board with the original holes and use a very shallow wood screw to fasten the board on both sides. Add the 2 screws on the white piece. Tighten the bottom screws on the white piece. Place the LCD in the frame and use a screw to mount one corner of the screen. Before screwing in the other corner, use a level to make sure you're mounting the screen straight. Also make sure not to over tighten the screws as this may damage the LCD. Due to the thickness of the screen compared to the original, I had to trim a little bit off the top of this piece. Remove the screws from the LCD, remove the frame, then put the screws back in the holes that were made. Without a garage, a tent was the best I could come up with to dry the pieces and not stink up the house. I'll use this brick in a plastic bag to support the frame. Take care on this part to make sure to paint everything evenly and smoothly, including the edges. We are not concerned with the underside or what will be the front of this display, as we will cover that up later. Now it's literally waiting for paint to dry. Once the frame is dry, go ahead and put it back into the Arcade1UP machine. Next, thread the 2 bundles of wires for the LCD through the hole in the frame. Using the same holes as before, mount the LCD screen to the frame. Again, make sure not to screw the screws in too tight or it may damage the display. After mounting the screen, make sure it is still level. If not, adjust as necessary. Now connect all the ribbon cables to the controller board. Afterwards, connect the power supply and verify that everything is working as expected before moving on. Make sure that the control buttons are also working as expected. Make sure that the video display is working. At this point, you can remove the protective film, but I recommend waiting until you have a solution on how you want to decorate the front of the screen first. Next, I cut a block of wood to match the size of the circuit board. I then wrapped it in electrical tape. Afterwards, I added a hook to the end of the block that will be used for cable management. Then drilled 2 wood screws into the wood that will be used to mount this piece. Make sure that the screws are short enough that they will not go through the wood when mounted to the cabinet. Mount this box above the monitor, just below the speaker cord. Cover the tops of the screw heads with more electrical tape. Screw the control board into the block that we just mounted. Using much shorter screws, mount the control board as seen here. Install the top cover back on the arcade. So the funny thing is right as I was happy with the LCD screen, everything looking nice, I'm picturing all these beautiful high-res graphics and everything in there, I got contacted by the guy who makes Pixelcade. And for those who don't know what Pixelcade is, it is a replacement marquees or DMDs. Now, I'm only going to explain what a DMD is because honestly, I didn't know that that was the term, but it's for a dot matrix display. So that is like, for example, on pinball machines, you can see all the graphics and everything like that. Well, he also makes for the marquees, and he makes them in all various sizes. But for Arcade1UPs, he actually has a replacement kit. So what we'll be able to do is we'll be able to take this Pixelcade thing, take the original marquee apart, and then install this inside this original case. and it has a piece of plexiglass to go over it, so it looks beautiful and seamless. And this is the reason why I was said this is potentially going to be the easiest option, because all the same holes and mounting and everything would work for this Pixelcade device. So that's awesome. I can't wait to try this thing out. But again, I wanted to let you know, this is not a sponsorship. Normally, if it was, I would have to put that on the video, but this is simply a review. It's not a sponsorship. It is, however, the first time my channel has been cold reached to evaluate something. So that's an achievement, right? That's something I'm very excited about. Another thing that's happened that's been great is my company where I work decided they were going to refresh their machines, and they ended up throwing a whole bunch of these little Dell machines away. So I grabbed I ended up also getting like 9 laptops, that I was able to give it to friends and family. And now I've got 4 of these things that I'm going to be able to use to test out the arcade. So that's the reason why I'm not only going to now be testing just Raspberry Pi, I'm also going to be putting a dual boot Linux and a Windows system on this one. So I'm going to have another entire test bed arcade machine, which is, again, just awesome. So make sure to stay tuned, because I'm going to be doing the next video is going to be installing the Pixelcade into the Arcade1UP, and some very important things there, and an exact how to sort of video. I also am going to try to be around more. I understand that I've been gone for a while now, and unfortunately it's just been it's been very hard to stay motivated. So I'm working to improve all that stuff. There's been a bunch of stuff going on, so if you want, you can pause and kind of see the little list here. But I'm also going to be working on new ways of how I've been trying to figure out how to use the social media to best. What do I use for what? What do I use to spread the message? What do I use? Because I don't want to live stream and fill up my YouTube listings with just live streams. So how do I leverage Twitch and all this other stuff? So I have some ideas, and I need help from you guys. Also, of course, if you've not subscribed, that's right down there. And also go ahead and comment. Now, if you do have a question that you want me to ask, or do you want to ask me, please email me, because while I do try to look through the comments, and I'm trying to get caught up on those, I'll notice an email with a specific question much faster. I'm also trying to figure out how to set up those support calls that I've done a couple times. I want to try to find a more consistent method of being able to do that. I'm still not charging at this time. I do ask, if I help you out and stuff like that, maybe consider a donation, because I am trying to get some cameras and everything for the channel to try to make the production quality better. Basically, anything I have made goes right back into trying to grow this channel. But putting comments on these videos and sharing them and all that stuff definitely helps with that little mathematical stuff going on, and will help prop these videos up. So make sure to do that if you get the chance. And make sure to join us next time, because like I said, this thing looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm already picturing other ways you could use this. I mean, because it's self-contained, you could actually mount this on a wall somewhere. If you're a streamer, mount it behind you and put all kinds of stuff up on there. So we're going to explore that in the next the next video is going to be the physical installation, and then we're going to start doing some really cool tests with this thing. So make sure to stay tuned, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe. Join us here next time, and thanks again for watching. Make sure to check out the links above for some of my other videos, and definitely smash that subscribe button. Also, make sure to turn on notifications so you don't miss out on any episodes. I'm continually trying to grow this channel, so make sure to like, comment, and share on all your favorite social media platforms. To find more content for this channel, check out the following locations. YouTube is the primary location where I publish the final versions of my how-to videos. I use Facebook for communication, notices about upcoming videos, behind the scenes pictures and videos, and the occasional live stream. For live streams, I primarily use Twitch, as it generally provides the least latency for the closest to real-time response rate currently available. I will occasionally multicast to Facebook and Twitch at the same time, but Twitch generally seems to have the least delay, so I prefer it for streaming events. And as always, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time.